It is the 30th of November 1859, and there is another fierce quarrel in the household of Božena Němcová and her husband Josef. At the end of the argument, Josef writes a petition for divorce. Among the reasons he gives are her negligence and carelessness and unwise handling of money, her comfortable life and her dislike of all domestic work. However, Josef eventually changes his mind and does not file the petition, so their complicated relationship, involving outbursts of anger, physical violence, escapes and reconciliation, will continue for another 14 months. Until the bitter end, when his wife, the greatest Czech female writer, a woman in every respect exceptional, dies in utter misery, exhausted and broken. The life of Božena Němcová was unconventional right from the beginning, as her birth is shrouded in mystery. Officially, it was stated, a girl named Barbara Panklova was born in 1820 to parents Terezie Novotná and Austrian Johann Pankl. However, since she is proven to have started school when she was only 4 years old, some believe that she must have actually been born a few years earlier, perhaps even to aristocratic parents. There was talk of Princess Wilhelmina, Duchess of Sagan, and her then lover, the Austrian Foreign Minister Metternich. But much more likely the parents could have been the Duchess's younger sister Dorothea and her lover, Count Clam Martinitz. The Pankl family would have adopted the girl for a fee, which was a common practice at the time. Anyway, the Pankls and little Barbara lived on the Sagan estate in Ratiboritz, where the father was a groom and the mother a laundress. At the age of 10, Barbara joined the estate manager at the Gvalkovitz manor house, where she spent 3 years learning the manners of nobility, reading classical German literature and dreaming about love. The turning point came at the age of 17. Her parents married her off to Josef Nemitz, without asking. He was 15 years older and from a completely different breed, a hard man, stern, short-tempered. After 8 years of military service, he now works as a commissioner of the Financial Guard, which means chasing smugglers around the hills. Barbara is quickly losing her ideals of marriage. She cried for the first time on the 8th day after the wedding. Nevertheless, they have 4 children in quick succession: Heinek, Karel, Dora, and Jaromír. The family keeps moving because Josef, as a policeman, keeps getting transferred. Česká Skalice, Červený Kostelec, Josefov, Litomyšl, Polná. Polná is a town where only the Czech language is spoken. Barbara reads Czech books for the first time, and her husband, who is a supporter of the Czech national revival, brings her into patriotic society for the first time. But it is only when they move to Prague his wife's life takes off in full swing. Thanks to her husband, she gets to know her peers in the patriotic circles such as Karel Jaromír Erben, František Ladislav Rieger and Karel Havlíček Borovský. They are absolutely captivated by Němcová. She's 23 and very beautiful. As it was said, very full-bodied, amazing black hair, beautiful in spirit, kind, educated and familiar with manners. She immediately has suitors, and she, apparently because of the lack of love in her marriage, is not going to hold back. Her first lover was the poet Václav Bolomír Nebeský. Her love for him is like fire, fierce and burning. But Nebeský does not last long. After all, he is having an affair with a married mother of 4 children. But it is he who prompts her to write. In 1843, under his guidance, she publishes her first literary work, a poem entitled To Czech Women. It shows several things. First, she signs it with her new first name, Božena, because she supposedly disliked the hard German name Barbara and was looking for a purely Czech name. Secondly, we can see a completely new phenomenon here, the female writer. Indeed, in the first half of the 19th century, it was not conceivable, even on a European scale, for women to engage in such activities. And thirdly, as the title implies, Němcová is here addressing women, encouraging them, passionately defending their strength and equality, which would later become the leitmotif of her entire work. We can therefore not only call her the first Czech writer, but also the first Czech feminist. Němcová loves writing. In addition to relieving her own soul, she wants to contribute to the Czech national revival. And so she finds a topic that has never been treated in Czech language before: the written retelling of Czech fairy tales. She adapts folk tales to her own taste, and although it's unconventional, the book called National Fables and Tales received rave reviews. Němcová decides, much to her husband's disapproval, that she will make a living only by writing. However, she is not very successful. When she earns some money, she immediately gives it away generously. Further problems begin after the lost revolution of 1848. Czech patriots are on the defensive, and her husband Josef is even accused of anti-state speeches. This is followed by more forced relocations, until in 1850 Josef Němec gets a post in distant Hungary. Božena again shows that she is far from the ideal of a devoted wife. She refuses to go with her husband, saying that the children need to go to Czech schools. For the next 7 years, the pair will live separately. Suddenly, she is free to have further lovers and falls passionately in love 3 more times. With Jan Helchelet, a Moravian revivalist, with Willem Lambul, a family doctor, and with Hanuš Jurenka, a medical student 11 years younger. But her happiness is always short-lived.
Teď nebudu mít už tolik času.
The year 1853 brings Němcová to her lowest point. Her husband in Hungary continues to be harassed by the authorities until his salary is stopped altogether. Němcová and her children are suddenly penniless. "Could you please lend me some money? We haven't eaten for 3 days. I can't even afford paper, I can't write." These are the desperate pleas she sends to friends. In addition, her eldest son Hynek, aged 15, is dying of tuberculosis. Božena is broke. It is then, in the worst moments of her life so far, that she decides to write her first great prose. She names it Babička, the grandmother.
Babička jede! Babička jede!
The grandmother is an idyllic return to her childhood, when everything was still as it should be. It's a celebration of nature, folkways, and the strength and kindness of one remarkable woman. Inspired only loosely by real people and events, the book is beautifully written. Even contemporaries have argued that in terms of Czech language, perhaps only the poem May by Karel Hynek Mácha can equal Grandmother. But the fee was paltry, and Němcová's 4 months of writing did not particularly pay off. So she would spend the next years in poverty and seclusion. She's now in her late 40s and her beauty is gone. Increasingly unwell, she also suffers from tuberculosis and apparently incipient cancer of her female organs. But she still has the strength to say and do what she thinks is right. When the Austrian authorities release other patriot Karel Havlíček-Borovský from his forced exile, she is said to be the only one who helps him.
Kde se tu berete?
Vy jste první člověk, který se ke mně v Praze hlásí.
In 1857, her husband Josef Němec returns home. Prosecuted by the authorities, in addition to a poor household with teenage children, the quarrels with Božena escalate. He even lays a hand on her and in November 1859 writes out the unfiled petition for divorce. After a year, Němcová decides to run away from home, even though she is seriously ill. She accepts the offer of a publisher from the town of Litomyšl to prepare the publication of her complete works. He pays her hotel and board and expects a revision of one work every 6 weeks. Němcová, however, is no longer able to work. The publisher stops paying her hotel, and there is a real danger that the famous writer, now an impoverished 41-year-old woman, will end up on the streets. Eventually, her husband Josef takes pity on her. He comes to get her and takes her home. But there, Božena is waiting only for death. On the 20th of January 1862, she receives a copy of the new edition of The Grandmother, which was published in Litomyšl. She is devastated. She does not like it. She signs it for her friend, but that is the last thing she is capable of. A few hours later, at dawn the next day, she dies in her bed. The unfortunate story of an extraordinary woman comes to a painful end.